What are you dancing today, Yari?
I am dancing. Hmm, my my knees and I just discovered a bit of more space for turning them in and out, and I'm very happy.
Ah,
But
there's more
but I'm
space
also
in your knees
dancing
than you knew.
a long walk.
A long walk? Ah, did you go on a long walk?
Yeah, yeah. I'm also dancing a long. I went for a long walk yesterday, so I hike and the nature. So I'm also dancing a bit that
Ah, nice. Well,
the
I am
nature,
I
the
am
my
also
feet
with
touching the floor differently.
I am also with nature, I think, because of listening back to Amelia Hawke's episode about forest therapy or forest bathing. Um, yeah, I had to think a lot about what it means to be with yourself and to give yourself the chance to heal, to recover, to feel. And I think I have the question of like, what do you think about like when dance becomes a kind of mindfulness practice, um, where there is a sort of somatic element to dance practice, and how do you understand that boundary or border where it slides into being something more therapeutic or remaining something that is artistic and creative, expressive? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think my experience is with dance. It's so far from therapeutic somehow because the imposition maybe of the body, because or at least the first part of my experience with dance was
Yeah,
totally far.
yeah.
The training, the not listening to the body really,
Mm,
and then suddenly the second part maybe was healing the
yeah.
first part. So then at the same time, healing is a therapeutic thing.
Mm, exactly.
Um, but and so for me, maybe it's always oh God, I mean, because I am working a bit with love for dance. So then it's a bit of this healing love, no?
Mm, hmm.
The love that comes after something
Mm,
that something that maybe was hard or that was difficult, and the getting together. So maybe that is what my relationship in relation to therapeutic dance or.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
but there is something you spoke about that I feel very strong, where like you actually speak about in one moment uh, uh, where how to not actually um, how to keep the artistic experience also where it is.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I don't know how to not transform everything into art or into bring it somewhere else.
Mm.
Maybe maybe in relation to. So I really also enjoyed that a lot. I felt it was telling me, reminding me that this is one of the most therapeutic things that I can do with art and with life, where they can stay. I can have an artistic experience in the middle of the forest.
Mm.
I don't need to bring it anywhere else. I don't need it to make or to I don't need to make a piece about. I'm just saying like that, for
I
example.
I really liked, yeah, I understand what you mean. I really liked when Amelia said that, f forest therapy, it's it's not therapy, it's therapeutic. And
Mm.
how she described therapy actually in relationship to that. And I think she struggled a little bit, like to fully define it, but she was speaking about it being safe and it being having its sort of control and its sort of structure to really ensure that it's safe. And I found that really useful actually in actually addressing what you're talking about, this sense of like art can sort of approach these therapeutic places, but it doesn't have to be therapy, if that makes sense. It can address things, but it's not working within a strict structure in order to ensure it's safe. I have to think about like just codes of ethics, like in scientific research and stuff. The practice of creating um, ethical spaces or ethical conducts, especially in terms of researching on other humans and stuff, is really strong. Whereas in dance, especially the more artistic rather than the sort of research, because I know that they are talking about ethics in research in art, but like in the dance studio, there is a real sense of one um, can push and test the limits of the human condition without putting in safeguards before doing it. There's no therapy safeguards, and there's also no like ethical safeguards in terms of like codes of ethics that is practiced in other types of research, and um and of course like it's sort of interesting. I forget what I was wanting to say, but you do you understand what I'm getting at?
Yeah, yeah, you're speaking about the different ethics of collaborating,
Mm,
researching, and feeling safe before or after uh, the artistic
yeah,
practice of dance.
yeah.
Uh, yeah,
No, and I actually I remember now. So like there's also something that has been, especially in dance, of like a thing of like giving yourself over to the dance. And sometimes, because of the way dance was structured, it's like giving yourself over to the vision of the choreographer. There's like a sacrificial quality to how that role was sort of enacted. And at least in myself, I recognize it as like I did these improvisations, I did these dances, I committed to it in a way of like giving the dance, giving the choreographer's dance everything. And I don't want to say choreographer because I never felt like I was giving them the myself, like
Yeah.
they become like an ownership of me, but it was their vision and their instructions that I was sort of giving over to,
Mm.
their vision of what the dance is. And there was like a sacrificial sort of element of like, I'm just going to throw myself into it. I wanted, because I saw a performance called Sweet Spot by Harald Bahari in Norway. And it was really interesting because they had changed cast and things, and they had been working on it a lot. I'd seen it before in Helsinki, but then I saw it again in Norway, in Trondheim. And Harald had sort of taken on the initial figure and had a lot more sort of like solo dances, or was somehow the protagonist throughout the work. And the dancers became in a way that it felt like they were support for his dance. Um, and of course, I think you could read it as like, oh, he was doing the dance correctly and they were not living up to the vision of the dance. But I don't think it was quite that. I think it was actually a form of ethics that was sort of involved in the choreographing of the work. Because as Harel spoke about it, they spoke about intimacy, coordinators, and setting limits and boundaries for each dancer. And when you watch the dancers around Harel, you could see that they weren't sacrificing themselves in the same way. I felt like they were doing really amazing work, really, really beautiful work, and pushing themselves in great ways, but not in the same way as Harao was. Harao seemed to be pushing themselves like way beyond what was necessary, or necessary, but what was maybe safe or comfortable. It was like within that realm of what I remember of how I felt like I had to be a dancer, was this sense of giving myself over to the dance, giving myself over to the vision and the choreography.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting point. You're saying, I mean, the choreographer, the one that is in that has all the responsibility, give tasks and so on, has a certain uh, agency,
Ability, yeah.
yeah, and ability to actually push themselves. But once they ask, or once even don't ask, but when that relationship is not equal, how do you do with this dancer in front of you that
Mm. Yeah,
that are willing or not to challenge themselves? In both
yeah.
cases, if they're willing or not, are they totally aware
Hmm.
of the
Mm.
power relationship, or the different maybe
Mm.
responsibility or authorship, or
Yeah.
um, uh,
And
yeah.
I mean, in myself, I found when I was working with ethics explicitly in my work, I still do work with ethics, but when I was really working on it, I found myself drawn towards, no, I make solos and the ethics of my solo, the work on myself, includes relationality. So
Yeah.
of course the audience and anyone I am dancing with, like even though it's a solo, like because it would be participatory to some degree, like I would try to engage in that and not um produce anything, but I would never create a choreography. And it challenged my perception of like, oh, maybe this is where choreography is developing in terms of this efficacy, or maybe even democratization of dance,
Mm.
like how we choreograph, basically how we organize the group, the gathering, in order to dance, and what does those figures do and how does it play out. And one thing that was really interesting was they tried a mechanism which they hadn't tried before. They just were like, let's try it, where they did this long, long dance, and it was and Harao was really giving everything, like leaving nothing, off stage. It was just all there. It's super raw. It's beautiful. And then everyone else was like supporting this energy and this drive to like share this imagination and this feeling and this sort of like story and power in a way. And then they did the bow, they did the curtain call, and they literally clapped and they thanked the people in the lights and everything. And we clapped and the lights came up on the audience. And then they just continued dancing. And it was so powerful
Right.
because then you saw the agency, that exactly as you call it, like the agency of the choreographer to sort of to to go further than like to take the idea that they were bringing to the performance and to the performers and then go as far as they they could feel they wanted to, whereas maybe the dancers are negotiating, do they fully understand the idea? Are they going enough in that direction? Is it somewhere they want to go? Does it really align with their own sense of self and identity, and technique and practice? And they're sort of judging that, but at the same time supporting what is there. But whereas Harel could go further, and then after the performance had technically ended, they then the agency of the dancers sort of emerged. So you had this huge contrast of like, oh, well, then they do what they want, you know. I really felt it like this. Benjamin Polig, who was watching it with me, he said he didn't feel, he felt like it was just a continuation, like the whole thing was
Yeah.
one performance. Whereas I really felt like there was a contractual break,
Yeah.
and the contract between the audience and the dancers had and the dancers and the choreographer of course had sort of broken, and it allowed for this like ambiguity. And when speaking about ethics, I can't not speak about Simone de Beauvoir's book on ethics, where she writes, her book is called The Ethics of Ambiguity. And so she says meaning is ambiguous, and uh, within that ambiguity, we have to always be working on our ethics because we can never know what is true, what is meaning. And it felt so powerful to lose the contract, or to no longer be sure of the contract, to be in that ambiguous space, and then see them negotiate their agency within that
Mm.
new contracts that were emerging and established, and the unclarity of the contracts. Like we didn't know as audience, like, can we leave? Should we leave? Can we encourage them to continue? Is that fair on them? Should they not stop now? They've already done a 1.5 hour, 2 hour performance, whatever it was. It was really amazing. I was really um, fascinated by that shift in the the role of the choreographer and the role of the dancer for me. Mm.
It sounds inspiring. I also feel like we, the body sometimes give you desires to do stuff, but also very often to actually not doing it.
Mm.
In the sense that what is called, oh, the body is lazy, in the sense that body want to be practical and want
Mm.
to maybe we spoke about that, and
No.
want to use less energy as possible to do stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we are, as a dancer, we go through different openings where we really give energy, and I realize actually, and we break a wall, a
Mm.
safe wall where it felt safe before. It felt, this is the safe wall, we can't really go that, and when we break we realize, oh no, that's more, and then we can go on and try to go on, and there is always something more that is not that put us more unsafe. It just make us really put a lot of energy in what we do. It's
Mm-hmm.
not about safe, but it's recognized maybe as safe, no? Because
Yeah.
putting a lot of energy in sweating, giving a lot of energy, sometimes it might feel unsafe, but what it is just to simply um, be careful on the use we do about our energy. So I can see also that from another perspective,
Yeah.
and also it's also this breaking the wall also open up a lot of desires slash hormones slash
Mm. Mm.
things biological that you want to have again. So suddenly there is also, from our point of view, a desire for reaching. More you break the walls, more you want to break the walls. Go on and try
Yeah, of
again.
course.
That
Yeah.
feeling of freedom,
Yeah.
right? Because then it becomes the feeling of freedom.
And what's really nice is because if I connect it back to the what Amelia was doing with me, I have to think about as well, like, has capitalism broken what is safe? You know, like I think about like what she was inviting me to do and what she invites us to sort of think about and to maybe try of just slowing down, listening, watching the and essentially rather than go to the green space and like visit it and consume it, but sit, just sit. And how that contrasts maybe with like the body's natural, or not natural, but like my urge. My urge is to continue working, to consume it, like I say. And maybe there's something in capitalism like that you want to be productive, and that's sort of broken. Like the safe thing to do often is to continue working to survive in this capitalistic society. Do you know what I mean? Like there's a sense of like the the safety becomes something which really is not so healthy for us. It's checking the email, it's keeping up to date on social media, it's running to the next meeting because we have now associated productivity with security, with safety. Whereas I believe if capitalism wasn't so embodied, if we didn't have to embody capitalism as we do, maybe then sitting and feeling the space like Emilia invites us to would be easier to do. We wouldn't have the government of Japan wouldn't have to invent a wellness practice to try and encourage people to de-stress and to connect with their body and green spaces. I don't know. Sorry, now maybe I'm taking you away from what you meant by this
No, no,
safety,
it's a lot of stuff. I'm not fully understand
the
this.
connection.
No, no, I'm not fully understand what all you said. Like
Mm,
the relation to cool down. Um, it just make me think, unfortunately, and now maybe I'm traveling somewhere else, about durational performances
mm,
that are not very often. Durational performances are about killing yourself in energy,
mm,
but
mm,
actually the opposite, to do something very slow for a very long time, um, and how that is different, and also is breaking. It's like it's
mm,
entering a sort of a loop, a routine, doing the same. Oh, we spoke about that already, like doing the same things, and
mm.
suddenly the same things change the experience of doing that.
Yeah. Actually, it's really nice that you bring it up because whenever I've actually noticed it when I've told people, oh, it's a durational performance, then they start to sort of ask these questions. Oh my God, how do you do it and stuff? And actually, maybe it would be good to make a distinction, like, because I think what comes to mind for them is an endurance performance.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas actually, what I feel like with a lot of durational performances in our field is that people are dealing with how do I live? How do I bring the complexity of life that can't be captured in just a short 60 minutes into this world? And how do I then reimagine choreography that, like you say, that loops or slows down and uh, to to encourage this idea that life is more than what can be captured in a shorter period of time. But rather than like, I'm going to do what I would do in a short period, but just extend it and make it. an endurance, a feat of endurance. Yeah.
Yeah. God, I'm sorry I'm jumping back, but I'm thinking about performance art and the difference between performance and reperformance. So, me as an artist, I do this performance because I'm very curious about maybe a practice or a little way of being in the space for a very long time.
Hmm.
And maybe I also didn't plan so much. So I might have planned something, but the choreography is very loose, and I don't know until it will happen what it will happen.
Hmm.
Later, very often became mostly coming back from reperforming stuff from old people, all artists that they did same things 40 years ago, that suddenly someone reperformed the same things,
Hmm.
or let's say someone that is employed in
Hmm.
someone that is not
Hmm.
and then it's you there is already a choreography to be very like stuck with. There is less agency that this person had because now it's about reproducing what happened.
Yeah.
And then there is another because it's not anymore the author and the person that does is not the same person.
Mm.
So uh, um, mm, I see a difference that, and although I don't agree because sometimes people says that choreography, hard choreography, so the choreography that is really like a step, another step, and a
Hmm.
movement is too bad for the agents in terms of agency for the dancers. And this I'm not. It
No.
depends.
Yeah.
It's really like it's not obvious.
Mm.
Uh, in this case, though. It's with the long durational performances where there is something about the body. I think it's actually where the choreography as that suddenly is a choreography and before maybe it was not. It's
Hmm.
a very different experience listen of agency of the performer. Um, I would say.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Absolutely. And I mean, we speak about the agency of the dancer, right? This is kind of what we're speaking around. And I think what's nice with that provocation that sort of Chrissa Parkinson did with the conference, dancers as agent, we sort of invoke the imaginarium of like, okay, what is the space of agency within the figure of the dancer? And of course, it is it has complexity. It's not one form. It's not um, it's not one size. It's not, maybe it's not even singular. Maybe it's multiple. There are different types of agency working in tandem or separate to one another simultaneously at the same time. So they it's this sort of um complex situation, which is often simplified in terms of the choreographer has the agency or the power, the will, and the dancer does not. This is just not the case. So the question I think is, I mean, the question I'm sort of raising a little bit by my interpretation of Harel Bahari's performance sweet spot is a little bit like what is happening in what is possible in how can we think and understand and what, like I remember I remember thinking, just as Benny sort of was saying, like, there's a real sense that Harao knows the choreography and the dancers aren't doing it as well. They're not doing it good enough. But and I remember having that sensation with performances. But I feel like for me, something had shifted in my readings. Some way of understanding the performance had changed that allowed me to read it as no, no, no. It's not that. It's not that they aren't doing the dance right or that they're not doing the dance well, because I can see how well Harald is doing it, how well the choreographer is doing it. It's more that the they are playing a different role. You know, their agency is different, and the choreographer's agency provides something specific. But it did actually. I think I had a provocative sort of question, which was like, has the dancer died? Does the role of the dancer no longer exist? The dancer that is is the embodiment fully of the choreographer. If this is a this is the next stage of democracy in dance or of choreography,
Yeah.
does the
I
role
mean,
of the dancer disappear or
well,
has to change into
I
something
mean,
we don't recognize?
yeah, I mean, interpretation is something that the dancer owns. Maybe not 100%, but at least
Mm,
it depends on which choreographer, I suppose. 70, 80%, 90%.
mm,
In the sense that maybe the choreographer might give vetoes about the interpretation of the dancer, but still, this is where the dancer has a lot of craft, a lot of agency possibility.
mm,
Um, so we could say, and we maybe already said before, probably because I repeat myself constantly in this podcast, that choreographically the choreographer might be entitled more in the big picture or more in the body. This is assume correlation with the dancer and negotiation probably in relation to steps and so on. But
mm.
then there is always this interpretation that it's almost 100%, I would say, busy. So the choreography of the dancer that choreographed that interpretation.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I love
So
this. I mean, and so for me, I mean, it's interesting that these questions come up in relationship to my meeting with Amelia Hawke, because her work for me is so political in a way, and she calls it socially engaged. She's a socially engaged artist, and I find that so interesting. And she says that it's about gathering, and we spoke about gathering last week in our dance reflection, about dance being about coming together and that gathering quality. And um, yeah, that she's looking to create conversations. I find that so interesting and fascinating. And then that well-being becomes like a central figure in her work. Um, that for herself, primarily, it seemed to be. And then as because she's doing it for herself, these well-being practices of forest bathing and stuff, and then becoming a forest therapist, I suppose, or practitioner, leader, facilitator, then that seeps into her work, and then the figure of well-being becomes so central. And I think for dance, I find it so interesting because we have this huge world of like somatic dance practices, therapeutic dance practices. I mean, even things like um, contact improvisation, which become like more esoteric. You know, they become therapeutic in their practice, even though they're still very centered outside of the somatic world, I would say. They sort of enter into that somatic um, sort of world as well. And you see the introduction of well-being being an integral part of dancing. And we're getting more and more of these intimacy coordinators actually working with choreographers. Like I'd argue, perhaps they're becoming more important than dramaturgs, which is an interesting shift, you know. We're going away from the the importance of meaning being created and understood and shared with the audience, and towards intimacy coordinators to ensure that the dancers are fully engaged with their agency and their limits and controlling their bodily autonomy and stuff. Yeah, sorry, I'm rambling again. Maybe that's what this is anyway, just a
Wow.
ramble.
Yeah, no, no, no. I mean, I'm so excited to meet more intimate coordinator in dance. I didn't. I
Mm.
probably met someone, but never really worked with. So,
I mean, yeah, it was interesting as well to hear your experience or relationship to the sort of the therapeutic side of dance, and for you that it becomes a healing of what dance was. Um, but you must recognize in others that you meet in dance where they haven't had that maybe traumatic experience with dance practice in a sort of professionalized sense, but maybe they're dealing with other types of difficulties they've had around bodily autonomy and the freedom of their body and their ability to be with themselves in a sort of physical sense. I mean, somatic practices can be extremely obvious sometimes, like about injury and about patterning and reestablishing healthier patterns and stuff. You know what I mean?
absolutely, absolutely, rewiring,
Mm,
connecting different part of the body, re-relating different part of the body, and I mean, in itself, warm up is also for me a healing moment,
mm,
where basically I'm not only making ready, I also massage. I
yeah,
also I also heal what is there from the day before, and so on. Or I think what is interesting in Amelia's work, or this social engagement
hmm
from conversational practices to the forest,
mm,
so that where the forest become the social engagement,
mm,
where the forest is part of the social. Engaging with the forest means actually listening to the forest, or to be in a state of not activity, maybe, or what we could or we would refer to something active,
yeah.
but more reactive. So this is I find that there is so much space for that that also go beyond maybe ideas of more naturalistic and therapeutic ideas, but companionship.
It's really nice how you articulate it like that because of course she has to practice with water, and she spoke about having a shower, which of course, Yari, you must have resonated with a lot. I had to think of you when I listened back to it. And then she has the tea practice as well about drinking tea. And I think what became really clear is how she uses material as a way to share those experiences, like that she feels for herself, like you're saying, like how she uses the forest as a way to deal with what she's doing. And it makes me realize, because I think I said it at the beginning, like I really struggle to name your practice. And maybe it's because as dancers, we don't look at the material, we look at the experience. Whereas for her as a visual artist and a performance artist, she looks at the material that informs the experience. It's a slightly different um, way round. And I wonder, I mean, because I suppose that could be true because in dance, the naming its material is actually often a very difficult thing to do. The famous one is that it's movement, but we all know that it's not just movement, it's relationship, it is materiality, it's objects, it's lighting, it's sound, it's smell, so it's not just movement, it's a combination of other things. And I wonder if dance focuses on the experience. Even if we think of choreographed steps, like you were saying earlier, you're putting your arm there, but is it really a material or is it an experience? Is the arm being there, that movement of putting the arm there, is it really the same as like the materiality of a forest or the materiality of water, where it has a separate objecthood to the experience of it? I don't know. I'm getting lost in a philosophy I have no
Yeah, yeah,
ground
there
for.
is it's so beautiful to get lost between the difference between experience and material. I love that.
Mm.
That somehow you are melting down the two together.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Well, I mean, if the experience is a material, and if, obviously we use experience as material, dancers.
Hmm.
Um, I wonder if you used material as experience. I don't know what that means, though.
Um, I don't think I've ever, I know exactly what you mean when you said the body is lazy. I don't think I've ever thought of it or heard of it said in that way. The body is lazy. It's very concise. It really anchors exactly that difficulty of the body being somehow wanting the most efficient thing. And yeah, and yeah, like we were speaking about and how I involved capitalism, but um what was the word? I have it written down. I'm gonna bring it up one last time. Safe. What is safe? To be safe, to be comfortable. And what causes that? And can your body follow comfort? I think that's maybe what I'm doing by inviting capitalism into that question. Can the body find comfort? Can it be lazy? If it is subjected to a form of domination, like capitalism or some other form of domination where you are policing yourself or you are being policed, you're being controlled in some way, manipulated to do something maybe that's not actually in your best interest, not in your body's best interest. Um, and if the body was free, then it could be lazy. A laziness that would provide a safety for the body,
Yeah,
for
but
the
I
person.
also the concept of freedom is always, as we know, maybe it's in relation to being
Yeah.
closed in. So not doing is not being free.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Have a
No,
possibility
no, yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's I mean maybe the experience of the dancer is also that freedom because I think the question of freedom, unfortunately, is very tied to dance.
Yes.
And so one of the main or basic or primary moment of dance is actually getting out and feel free.
Hmm. Hmm.
That means breaking this laziness somehow.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. No, it's true.
so maybe this is also where it is that for the dancer become also a little addiction and
Hmm.
desires because once you break one wall, or let's say you're in term of agency of movement, so you are so good in moving in many ways that you're
Mm.
always looking for new ways of moving, so that they
Yeah.
can break that, that. But I mean, we are speaking probably about desire that comes after practicing and after. redoing, and after, it's a curiosity where it
Maybe,
leads you. Whoa.
maybe. And then
Yeah.
we get back to the question of, maybe experiential or bodily trauma that exists for everyone, not just from a practiced dance situation.
Right. Right. Just you mean like just go to a fucking
I mean,
desk, just
yeah,
be on the
yeah,
desk.
yeah, exactly. And then, then massage and conditioning and physio and um, taking a gym class and or going to the
Right.
gym and exercising, freeing the body, breaking those confines that are
Mm.
then established through the chair become aspirational for that body, and we may not consider it within the realm of dance naturally, like in a sort of instantaneously, in a sort of common sense way. I don't know what I'm saying, but like in an expanded sense, we could definitely say, oh, there's creativity there. There's a creativity with the body or with experience. Hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Well, we talk a lot, huh? And we probably make a lot of mistakes. So
oh,
we
for
should
sure.
dance.
It's only
I,
mistakes.
yeah, I have to be reminded of, you remember Morten Spongberg had a blog called Spongbergisms?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so when I was young and he was more in vogue, I remember feeling very inspired by that, but simultaneously very provoked as well, where he would just say these controversial things. And I also thought, well, it's kind of healthy to have this sort of ongoing dialogue and criticality and provocation around the thinking of what dance is and can be. I mean, and then he also made these very, very beautiful, interesting, complicated works, which involved a lot of strange autonomy. I mean, speaking of durational performance, right? Like La Substance, to name one of them. Ah, yeah. Let's dance with the words,
Let's do it.
dancing the words away.
Yep.
Thank you, Yari.
Thank you,
All
dear.
right, I see you next week.
See you next week.